Herbalism is a supportive modality. I never want people to think that herbalism is the be-all, end-all, because it's not. You're unlearning your old ways, you're deprogramming your mind, and there's so many layers and levels to that. Everything that you're doing every day is leading you to where you need to be. Hi, beautiful people. So today I'm sitting right in front of my new Apothecary. This is an old TV stand that I got from an estate sale. It was from a guy that was a wood builder, a woodworker. And so I pretty much converted it into my kitchen apothecary, which is exciting. This will be the third apothecary that I have in my home. I have 2 in my office for business, and then this will be my kitchen apothecary. So when I'm making my morning tea and whatever blends, I don't have to walk to my office to get my herbs. They will just live here, and I'm excited. Today's video is going to be about my journey within herbalism. How did I get here? How did I start moss medicine? Who am I? A lot of you already know me from TikTok, from Instagram, from my business, Moss Medicine. But I am just kind of working my way into this YouTube world. And so I just wanted to start this journey off with a great video to tell you guys about how I started on my path of herbalism. So let's get into it. I always like to tell people that my journey to herbalism has been like a culmination of so many different parts of my life that have led to this very moment. There is not one thing that I did that, if I did differently, wouldn't have led me here, if that makes sense. Basically, I feel like it was destined for me to be an herbalist. So I guess I can start from my upbringing. I'm not gonna go too deep into my whole life because some things are personal and I'm a pretty private person, but I am born and raised in New York City, born in Queens, raised in Brooklyn. I lived in New York for most of my entire life. I just left New York 2 years ago. And so you guys already know New Yorkers are go-getters from birth. And so I had started working when I was 15. It was an essential part of my life to work. I remember the day I got my working papers. I became a camp counselor, and then I started doing retail, and my journey kind of propelled forward from there. My mother is an immigrant from Trinidad, and my father is a 3rd-generation New Yorker, but our ancestry goes back to Eastern Europe. And so I just feel like being an entrepreneur is in my DNA. I look back at family members on both sides, and they've always had, creative jobs, artistic jobs, working with their hands, and businesses. And so I knew from a very young age that business was something I wanted to get into, but it was never something that I studied in school. So going into the school journey, school was normal. I was never like the best student. I was just breezing on by. And when I hit college, I graduated high school at 17, got into college at 18. I had this intense spiritual awakening of sorts. It was like life just jolted. It's like my eyes just opened, and I realized that the things that I was doing, the ways that I was living, the way that I was treating my body, it just wasn't gonna work anymore. I had this huge conviction to stop eating meat and go on this plant-based journey, and I was on that path for about 8 years. So all my friends knew me as a vegan. Anytime we would go out to eat, it was like, okay, we gotta make sure there's food for Brie because she's vegan. I was Brie the vegan for many, many years. And so naturally, friends would start to come to me for advice about plant-based foods and getting a healthier diet, how to fast. Those were things that I've done for pretty much over a decade now, like almost 15 years, almost a decade and a half. I have been pretty well versed in I guess alternative healing is the way to say it. I took an herbalism course in college. I think I was about 19 when I took this course. It was offered at my school. It was an elective. The teacher was so passionate about herbalism, And it was just like the mustard seed that I needed, right? It just planted something in me. I was so invested in this class, and then I just forgot about it for many years. Fast forward again, the pandemic rolls around, and the pandemic was kind of this like aha moment. And I tend to have a lot of aha moments on my journey. I come into this awareness, like it's something clicks in my spirit that, okay, this is what I must do. And so the pandemic rolled around. I was in New York City during the full time of the pandemic. And I just realized it's time for me to help folks. I have all this knowledge, I have all this awareness, I know how to heal people, I know how to handle herbs. It's time for me to, first of all, study more and start to help folks move through these crazy times. I don't know what in me was just so ready to step up, but there was no question. One day I made the decision. I kind of told one or two people in my life at the time, like, I think I'm going to become an herbalist. Like, I think this is something I need to do. But I tend to not consult people in my life too much about anything that I do, because I already know external opinions tend to infiltrate, the true desires of your spirit. And so I pretty much was just like, okay, I'm going to just listen to what my heart is telling me. And I did. At the time, everything was online. So I believe I took 3 Herbal Academy courses, and I did it, the beginners, the intermediate, and the advanced courses of herbalism during the pandemic time. And then from that point, I started self-studying, deep self-study. Some of the books up here are some books that I really loved and have propelled my journey forward in exponential ways. But those are all things that, are cognitive learning. They're knowledge, it's information. And I think the true test of, studying something, journeying with something, is actually putting it into action. That's how you convert information to knowledge to wisdom, right? There's a whole journey that you have to go on. And so I decided to start applying the things that I was learning. And we were all at home at the time. So I hopped on TikTok. This was in 2020. And I started to talk. Make videos, recipes, all these things for immune health, gut health, anxiety, just normal things that I was dealing with in my own personal life. I would convert it to videos on TikTok. I also forgot to mention that, naturally in Trini culture, we have herbalism embedded into our culture. Caribbean culture is very much closely intertwined with we have our own version of herbalism, is what I should say. And so there was that aspect of it. I remember I was in Florida at my mom's house for some of the pandemic, and I told my grandma that I was becoming an herbalist, and she was like, I have a book for you. And so she gave me a book. We found some books that she had from back in Trinidad that were wine making recipes, but you make it with herbs and plants and all roots and all of these things. And so that's also a full aspect of my journey, the ancestral part that I definitely don't want to leave out. But I'm fast forwarding it quite a bit now. We're back into me posting on TikTok, and things just took off. It was like day and night. And I think that was a real big indicator where I knew this was my path, because it was really easy for me. I posted a video on TikTok, and it hit I hit 10K in a week on TikTok, and that was exponential. That was amazing for me. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm 10,000 followers, and I posted 3 videos. It was prime time to be on TikTok. But I never cared for the numbers, really. My goal with everything that I did was to always add value and to educate folks, because truly the deepest desire of my heart is to help people and to make herbalism very accessible. And I know that making information really digestible for folks it's a huge world that a lot of people are still learning about and getting their feet wet into. And so I could be the bridge. And so from the beginning of my journey, that was my goal, was to be the bridge for folks who are just curious about herbalism, who have never heard about it, or who are just wanting to heal their family, their friends, and then we can go up from there. And so during this time, I was in school for massage therapy. I was like, what's I in school for? I've been in and out of college a bunch because I was just trying to find what path I wanted to go on. And so during this time, I was in school for massage therapy. And I was like, okay, this is my plan. I'm gonna take herbalism and I'm gonna combine it with massage therapy. I'll open up like a few clinics around, you know, massage centers or whatever, or I can do like a massage type retreat with herbalism. And I had a moment with myself and I had to really get clear if that was the path that I desired. And the true core of what I wanted was to just be an herbalist. I didn't care for massage. I wasn't passionate about it. It was just something that I was doing to fall back on. And I asked myself for real, like, if you really are going down this path, you can't have a plan B. I never believed in having a plan B. I am an all or nothing kind of girl. I go all in and I make sure that whatever I'm dedicated to, I do it really, really well. And so in that moment, I dropped out of school. I dropped out of my massage classes and I started to develop my business. And so I told nobody in my life that I was doing this. Like I said, I'm a very private person. I don't like other people's opinions infiltrating my decisions. I told 2 people that were really close to me, and I started to develop the business. And so the business side of me started to pop out. It was very, very tumultuous and difficult to work out the kinks of how to even have a business, the design aspects, formulating my products, what is the overall goal of my business, and how am I going to sustain myself, right? How am I going to make it all worth it? And so that was the journey that I went on for about a year. And throughout this time, I was still studying. So I was taking courses on the side. I was reading a ton of books every single day and educating at the same time. You'll be surprised, like at every point in your journey, no matter how much you think you don't know, you know a lot more than people that don't know anything about your path, about your career. And so even though I was still very new to all of this, I had more information than some folks did. And I wanted to share it. I was so deeply passionate about sharing it. And sharing it I did. I didn't hesitate. I went out of my way to share things, and people were very grateful, and I built a beautiful community online. And so when the day came for me to launch my business, when Moss Medicine was finally prepared and ready for the world, it was so scary for me. I can cry right now. It was so emotional. I was going through this gestational period for a year prior. And when everything finally pulled together, and when I finally had something to show for, I told my friends like a week before, finally after a full year, I was like, guys, I have been developing a business for the last year. This is the name of my business, and this is what it's gonna be about. And they were like, what? But they were so supportive, and long story short, I launched Moss Medicine May 2021, May 11th. Okay, I remember the exact date. That week was the most amazing week of my life still. I just had so many moments happen that just led me to truly believe that this is the path for me. So many happenstances. It was just perfect. And so I launched Moss Medicine, and we sold out in the first week. Everything was sold out. I was like, what is going on here? We started hitting business milestones really, really quickly. The support was just something that I could only dream of and hope of. And that's really the favor of God on my life. I have to give glory to God right now because God's favor is something that really just, you always want to pray for God's favor over your life. It's something that you can't even put words to. It's something so amazing. And so I had the blessings from so many people, from so many parts of my journey. And from that point forward, I was a business owner and an herbalist, and so many things have happened ever since. I launched a course. I am working on so many different projects right now. We have a plethora of products, and I moved out of New York City. I have a garden. I'm growing a lot of my herbs, and things are just constantly building, and I'm extremely grateful. So that is a little bit about my journey. I do want to say that if you're beginning your herbalism path, naturally, I think we all kind of begin in the Western herbalism realm, right? There's many different sectors within herbalism, and that's a huge draw as to why I would be interested in this path anyway, because I get bored easily. I like to constantly be learning, evolving, and growing. That is a huge part of my life. And so naturally, a lot of us start in the Western herbalism realm, but quickly you'll realize that there's some key parts of herbalism missing, right? Because Western herbalism is a culmination of other cultures coming together. Western herbalism is actually learned from African herbalism, Caribbean herbalism, Chinese medicine. Like there's so many different parts. Ayurveda, which is like the study, like the Indian healing. And so there's so many different sectors of herbalism that I think are often overlooked in the Western herbalism realm. So if you're starting on your herbalism path, it could be a tad bit overwhelming for you to know what side of herbalism to dive into. And I think it's entirely okay to start with Western, start with whatever is really accessible to you, but then you start to get a little bit more niche. You know, you get to know what's exciting to you. Maybe you want to go the ancestral route and go deeper into your own culture, like I did and like I'm doing. So you know, some of the courses that I've taken a Caribbean herbalism course because I'm Caribbean. And so it's important for me, especially because I live in Florida now, it's important for me to connect with more tropical plants that are indigenous to the land that I'm on and that are indigenous to my people. And so I care about Caribbean herbalism, whereas some folks decide to start with Western herbalism and then they get a little bit more niche and they dive into African herbalism. And you'll start to see like a lot of similarities between all of these paths. And I don't think they have to be so separate. I think they all kind of intertwine at times, but some people decide to go the Ayurveda route, which is pretty different from the Caribbean herbalism route, right? They teach very different formats, or yeah, the structure of what they're teaching is pretty different. And the same thing with traditional Chinese medicine. That is also very different. And so I think it could all be a bit overwhelming when you're first starting, but it doesn't have to be. So I encourage folks, whoever is interested in starting within the herbalism realm, start with whatever is the most accessible to you. If you live in the Caribbean and you have a local medicine man, local medicine woman, local classes, anything that you can start with that is close to you, start there. If you don't have anything around you, don't have the funds, start on YouTube, start with books. I'm going to do, my next video will be about like some books that I really recommend, and I get excited because I love books. I think Google is cool, but books actually hold some great knowledge that you're not going to find on Google. I think books are special and we should be able to hold information. You know, I like the physical text being in my hand. So I'm gonna do a video about all the books that I really love. But yeah, I think herbalism is this beautiful field. It's a beautiful path, and it's holistic medicine at the end of the day, right? And so we're learning about plants, we're learning about the constituents, the makeup, how they interact with our body systems, and we're also learning that our diet is very important. The way that we drink water, what type of water we drink is very important. And that's why the beginning parts of my journey have been so helpful for me. And I want to encourage you guys to realize that like everything that you're doing every day is leading you to where you need to be. That's the truth. While the beginning part of my journey was tumultuous and wild and overwhelming, my 20s, now I can say that I learned so much during those times that I can actually really anchor in this moment, right? I can actually hold the bigness of what it is to have a business. And I learned how to fast when I was 19, 20, 21, 20, I learned how to fast in the early stages of my journey. So now when I know it's time to do a parasite cleanse, a candida cleanse, or even just if I have any ailments going on in my body, fasting is my first go-to. That's the first thing that I think about to do. And it really complements herbalism, right? So I always want to drive that home. Like, herbalism at the end of the day is a supportive modality. Herbalism is a supportive modality. I never want people to think that herbalism is the be-all, end-all, because it's not. The truth is they're supportive. They're here to be our allies, to help us get back into alignment. God gave us plants to help us, right? But not for us to be reliant on. And so I actually just made a video on TikTok about this, but I feel the need to say this in this video, that as we come into the herbalism realm, we really have to let go of our pharmaceutical mindset. So the pharmaceutical mindset, to put it very simply, is the idea that all I need to do is take this thing one time and I'm gonna be healed. Whether it's, I have to take this pill for a week, or I have to take Advil and my pain is gone. That does not reign true in herbalism. And so starting on the herbalism path, we have to unlearn a lot of things, right? We have to unlearn the ways of being, the ways of living, the ways that we've been programmed to live, right? And so it's really holistic, because it's not just herbs, it's also you're unlearning your old ways, you're deprogramming your mind. And there's so many layers and levels to that. We are truly onions. I have seen myself through so many births, rebirths, and deaths. I die like 5 times a year, and then I'm reborn, and I'm constantly renewing, shedding and renewing. And so that's kind of a part of like this journey as well. So instead of thinking within this pharmaceutical mindset, herbalism asks us to take an herb. Maybe we have to take an herb for like a month, It's not as just like a 1, 2, 3 and you're healed. We're gonna have to get to the root, the core of why your body is out of whack. It might take some time for your body to get back into equilibrium. It might not be just this herb you have to take, right? You also have to change your diet, your mindset, the people that you're around, your whole life, because we are holistic beings. And so I don't know how I got here, but I'm here. And I think that was just kind of a word of encouragement for people that are interested in herbalism, that want to go down this route. There is a lot of layers to be shed, right? And relearning to be had, but it's beautiful, and it's in harmony with nature. It's in harmony with the truth of who we are. We have been given plants. They're all around us, and it's beautiful to be able to be harmonized with nature. So yeah, that's a little bit about my journey. I thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it was informational. And if you have any questions about how to get started on your own path, different sectors of herbalism, or anything that you would like to know that maybe I grazed over in this video, feel free to ask me down below. And stay tuned for my next video about herbalism books. Thank you for watching.